From Oscar Steakhouse, inside the Plaza Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, you're on the corner of Main Street. Welcome to the only podcast produced by and recorded in the Las Vegas Hotel Casino. From gaming to dining to entertainment to sports to Vegas history, this is the place to be for the inside scoop, because this is the place to be downtown. Now, here's Plaza CEO Jonathan Jossel.
Good morning, everybody. We are back on the corner of Main Street, sitting in Oscar's. We recorded an episode about, what was it, Gary? A couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at this point. And we had our good friend, Grant Garcia, on that episode with us. You'll know him from one of the previous episodes regarding Life is Beautiful, where he joined us. But he's back today because we're talking about an episode we did a couple of weeks ago. And Grant, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And Gary,
how are you?
Always good to see you, my friend. So what we talked about a couple of weeks ago is on this podcast, we like to talk about everything and cover anything Las Vegas. And a few months ago, Grant and I were walking through the casino and we bumped into someone who asked if he could take a picture with us. And we were like, yeah. And get talking to him. And it turns out that he was a competitor that weekend in a slapping contest called Power Slap, right? Hosted by Dana White. And originally he founded the UFC, and now his new venture is slapping, Power Slap, which is starting to gain real traction. I mean, do you watch it, Gary? Do you know anything about Power Slap?
Yeah, I think I watch it just like everybody else does, using the reels and the shorts, and I don't think I've watched a full episode, but just seeing the clips of just people,
I mean, it's
slapping the heck out of each other.
It's got hundreds of millions of social impressions, which, by the way, kind of how UFC took off. Some people say UFC, in fact, I think we might have talked about this at some point, is not a combat company, but it's a media company. It's all about the media content that they're creating. Seems like Slap is definitely gaining traction with media. They've done a deal now for a number of fights at Fontainebleau, and it's getting traction, right? It's getting exciting, and so there's a couple of characters. Anyway, this guy was Vern the mechanic. He asks us for a picture. Vern the mechanic, Cathey. He asks us for a picture. We take a picture. We get talking. Turns out to be a super cool guy. He's with his wife, right?
Yeah, with his wife, Shannon. And they said that they love coming to the Plaza and happen to run into us. And, to go back to Slap, peripherally, just being in Vegas and being fans of UFC and combat sports, I would see it. But I just thought it was just kind of a gaff thing. But it started turning serious, and it was just kind of serendipity. We ran into this guy, then I started looking it up, and I'm like, wow, this is a legit production, a legit company, legit format. So yeah, it was fun running into them.
And Vern is the #1 contender for the light heavyweight.
We're about to do an exclusive right now. We're about to break some big news in the Slap world. And I'm sure none of our fans or podcast listeners watch Slap, but if you do, the guest we're about to have a conversation with just announced today that he is fighting for the light heavyweight belt on December the 6th.
December 6th, yeah. Power Slap 10.
Power Slap 10 at Fontainebleau. Vern, who is our friend and podcast guest today, will be fighting the Wolverine for the title. So if he wins, we're going to have the belt come downtown and hang out with us with the belt. But it's a really fascinating thing. It's just men or women slapping each other, which he'll talk about. They get one turn each, and we'll discuss that in a minute with him and how this thing became a real sport.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is how Slap has really blown up in a fraction of the time that it took UFC to blow up with
but don't you think
billions
that's
of
because
views.
they already have the credibility of UFC behind them? Dana White, Fertitas, they got the brands, so now they're doing it. They could do anything. Dana White could do anything and it would blow up.
I feel
and the way the content's consumed now is much differently than it was in '93.
Exactly. You're
when
exactly
UFC
right.
came
I
out.
think they had the cheat code on how to kind of take those leaps and bounds, but still very impressive to do it in 15 months to get to where they're at.
That's true. It is pretty amazing because, like in the NFL, if you touch someone's head, you get a fine or you get a flag. And these guys are just taking full swings at each other's heads, unprotected. It's question about that, but anyway. So Vern becomes a friend of ours. We meet, tells me he's fighting for the title. So I invited him out here when we did this podcast, but I invited him here to come see Life is Beautiful because he loves music. He loves downtown, as Grant was saying. So we invited him out here. He's hanging out at the hotel. We do the podcast. He came for 4 nights, had a great time with us, listened to all the music, and tells me he's going to be on the fight, on the title fight. It's kind of a big deal.
A big deal. Big deal. It was great. That weekend of Life is Beautiful, I would just randomly see him and his wife, Shannon, everywhere in downtown and everywhere in the plaza. I mean, they're just amazing people, sweet people, to know that he professionally slaps people and trains to slap people on a daily basis. And
When he's not slapping people.
Sure.
But we also had Big John here and his son Johnny Fisher, who's a genuine heavyweight, and he announced that he's fighting on the Tyson Fury
Heavyweight box.
Yeah. He's fighting on the Tyson Fury Usyk card in Saudi Arabia next month in December. So that we had 2 legitimate combat professionals hanging out with us at Life is Beautiful this year.
So speaking of which, how was Life is Beautiful? Because we really haven't touched on it. How was your
It's a good
experience?
question, Gary. We never talked about it again afterwards, and we didn't have anybody from the representative of Life is Beautiful, the Rolling Stones. You know, we were always just the site. We took it upon ourselves to try to keep it in downtown as we believed it should be downtown. And from the Plaza perspective, and everyone I talked to, we were thrilled with how it went in terms of the fact that everyone was safe. There was no safety issues. That became my biggest concern leading into it, was just the idea of all the security and safety measures you have to undertake to have that many people here. But also just logistically, it was seamless. It was really smoothly done. Our team did an incredible job. You specifically, the security team, the hotel team, to run this place without a parking garage was an incredible undertaking. We really pushed ourselves to the limit in terms of pulling this off. And then for me personally, I've always wanted to see what that site's capable of. You know, we've had this land. We've always talked about, can you do events out there? We've never really done. We do rodeos. We do some other, the demolition derbies. We do some other events, but we've never had anything with this scale and production. And to see 8,000 to 10,000 people standing there during Peggy Goo, where there's a video from behind it that we now have, and we have drones, and we have time lapses. Like, we have everything that can now show the capabilities of this site for future events. And everyone has different opinion on entertainment. Obviously, it wasn't Life is Beautiful as people knew it, and everyone can have a different opinion on the quality of the entertainers and that stuff. That's not our business. We don't book the talent. But to see Justice, who did an incredible show, we had at the time when Justice was there, we had Grant's favorite, Fisher, the DJ, came down. We had Martin Garrix here. We had some really good producers, production people.
Just to come to see the acts. Not to perform, but they wanted to see the festival, see the acts, which was great.
And to have those people downtown, those eyes on the plaza. Of course, we had to do fireworks.
Johnny Rockets made an appearance.
We had to do fireworks, and that was cool. So from our perspective, it was flawless, seamless, excellently done. Do I wish there had been a bigger attendance? Do I wish there was more buzz about it? Yeah, but I think, it was a completely new event in many ways, and perhaps it can build from this point onwards, and maybe we'll have someone from Life is Beautiful in the future, or some other news about Life is Beautiful in the future that we can talk about. Anything I missed? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think it was just seeing the execution of a stage and a festival of that size being erected in 48 hours was a sight to see in itself. I mean, it was a massive double stage. It wasn't just a single stage. It was a massive double stage that they did, a full festival footprint on our land to the south, which was incredible to see, and to see that many people on there and then activated with top-notch acts was incredible. One of the most memorable things, besides seeing Fisher, of course, but one of the, for me personally, but one of the most memorable things was in the middle of Justice's set. They were just crushing it on stage, and the train goes by, and the music kind of goes down in between their song, and the train honks its horn. The whole crowd looks over at the train. It was pretty surreal.
The train going by might be the coolest thing at any festival. I think that's a really underestimated part of how cool that train was going by. But yeah, it was fun, and I'll tell you who had an amazing weekend. Vern the mechanic.
You did?
So let's go to that episode, and hopefully next time we do this, Vern, we're with the Power Slap champion. Hi everybody. We are here today sitting in our boardroom, not in Oscars. A lot going on the property. Our guest has come out specifically for today's events and festivities. So Gary, why don't you introduce our guest, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we connect.
Yeah. Joining us today is the number one ranked light heavyweight in the world of power slap. Welcome, Vernon Cathey, to On the Corner of Main Street. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate you guys having me here.
Some might say a professional slapper.
I am.
Professional slapper. And also back today, because he did such a good job last episode, is Grant Garcia. Welcome back, Grant. Nice to have you here. This is fun. We have Vernon with us here, and slap is becoming a real thing in Las Vegas. Everyone knows UFC. Same owner of UFC, Dana White, started this league of slap, which we're going to talk about because we haven't really talked too much about UFC on this podcast. We've had Bruce Buffer on our podcast. I'm actually wearing a sweater designed by Brittany Palmer, former UFC ring girl, arguably the most famous UFC ring girl, maybe one of them, one of the originals, OGs. I asked Vernon before we started, do they have ring girls at Power Slap?
And I honestly said, I don't know because I don't pay attention.
And I don't know if he's telling that the truth or not, but his wife Shannon is with us today, and maybe he's just pretending he doesn't look at the ring models. But Shannon, do they have? They do? Right, in between each slap, they walk around with like a number?
In between each.
I don't know. Their butts are always in my face.
Oh, okay. So their butts always in your face. So we figured we would get Vernon on this podcast because he was coming out today anyway for an event here at the Plaza. So we figured we didn't want to miss the tipping point where slap becomes massive and the next big combat sport. So we wanted to have we want to be like, yeah, we were ahead of the curve and we talked about it here. So thank you for joining us here today. And Vernon and I actually met one night walking in the Plaza Casino. How did that happen?
Total random. We're eating at Pop-Up Pizza because I like that place. And then you were walking out of the back and I was getting stuff. And I told my wife, I was like, that's Jonathan. That's the guy. And she's like, well, go talk to him. I was like, nah, I don't talk to people. I really don't. Like, I meet all sorts of people doing what I do, and I try to give people their space. And she's like, no, just go talk to him. So I, introduced myself, and then one thing led to another.
Well, thank you for saying hi. What were you doing downtown?
I had a power slap event that we were at, and I don't remember. I think was I coaching that one? I think yeah.
We'll fight it.
No, I won that one.
You won.
Yep,
I
won that one.
Yeah,
Yep,
that was the one you won. You were the underdog.
Yep. I've been an underdog a lot.
Okay. Nice.
You're welcome, casinos.
Sports betting. It's good insight. Well, listen, we appreciate you. Were you staying with us? Yeah, you were staying with us back then. So we appreciate you staying with us. Appreciate you coming back for this event, and appreciate you taking the time to join us on this podcast to talk a little bit about the industry and what's happening. So thank you.
Yeah, I guess the first question we have is, what exactly is power slap for our listeners who may not know?
It's an engagement of two people slapping each other. And there's actually a lot of rules. Like everyone they think it's just like, oh, I'm going to stand up there. There's technique involved. Certain people clinch different. Certain people throw a slap different. It boils down to like, who's the toughest guy in the room, literally. So if you watch it, I mean, I call it the home run derby of fighting because every time, like, you're just seeing the good hit every single time. So the crowd's up, it's down. It's amazing.
So, but it's a combat sport.
Yes.
It's a combat sport where two guys or girls,
Yep,
potentially,
two guys or girls, yep.
get up on stage, and there's a podium in between you, and you have to slap the other person one at a time. You each get one go,
Back
right?
and forth, yep.
And do you flip a coin to go first?
Yes, the Gaming Commission flips a coin a couple weeks out. So.
That's kind of a big deal who gets to go first because you could win with the first hit.
Yep.
And then you hit each other 1-1, rotating until what?
Well, it's 3 rounds for a conventional fight. A title fight is 5. So it's either a person gets knocked out or it goes all rounds, and then it's judged by officials on how well the person took the slap, and then if the other person gave a good slap.
Does it go by damage at all? Or does damage play into it like it would in MMA?
They say it doesn't play in, but honestly, like, you can tell, like, the judges and stuff, like, it's like, oh man, like that guy's head was really whipping and stuff like that.
Or half his face is swollen.
Half his face is
right.
What is the definition of a knockout?
It's just like boxing or MMA. It's either a technical knockout where you're like unable to continue, where you're just dazed, which I've been technically knocked out once or twice. And then there's a full knockout where it's just like, he's out. Like, he's not moving. He's out.
Oh, you got knocked out then. There's also the guys standing behind them, and they hold like a stick or something behind them.
Yeah, we hold it's like a foam noodle.
And we are not acting as dumb as we sound.
No.
But for those that have never heard about this sport or just learning about it, I guess there is more to it than just slapping each other.
Yeah,
right?
because
there's more technical to it.
You have to hold the noodle, and that keeps you in a stable position so that the opponent can slap you. Because a lot of people don't realize, like, you get 2 for flinching. Like, I thought that was funny, 2 for flinching. So if you are receiving it and you flinch, they get to hit you again. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So
You don't want to flinch then.
Yeah, I don't flinch. Yeah.
Flinch meaning like
Yeah.
pretend like to
yeah,
move.
Or
Yeah. Any like if you shrug or you lean or yeah. So you have to be as still as possible. So if you clinch and you kind of go like this, that's not a flinch. But if you like close your eyes and you like and move your head like that, that's a flinch.
So is one round is 1-1. One person slaps, the other person slaps. That's one round,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And how do they judge it? Like boxing, UFC, MMA, 10-8 rounds, or based on 10-point systems. How do they?
It's a 9-point system, I do believe. And so if one competitor fell and got back up and the other person didn't, that round would be 8-9, or vice versa. And if someone had a penalty, they'll take a point away. So you could potentially, have you could get hit multiple times and you think you're going to lose, but the other guy got a flinching and he stepped. So he lost 2 rounds. Well, you lose 2 rounds out of a 3-round event.
You're done.
You're done.
Right. So
Yeah.
And okay. And when you get knocked down, do they count you out?
Yep.
So it's like a standing count, and if you don't meet the
10
count,
10 seconds,
it's
like
10
other-
seconds, like
10
boxing
seconds.
or
Yep, like
yeah.
boxing.
I was just reading an article about it because they just announced a big deal where basically they're going to be at Fontainebleau for a bunch of fights, is
Yep.
what the article said. And I guess Fontainebleau is going to brand itself as the home of power slap. Again, massive statement for the sport that it's got a new home and a new casino on the strip,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
and it's selling tickets out on AXS. I think they said. I think the last event sold 3,500 tickets. So it's obviously a
was
growing
sold
sport.
out. Yeah.
it was a Durango, right?
We were
Durango's-
at the Durango and then we went to Fontainebleau.
Okay, because I know Durango was sold out. I
And
was
it's
trying to get
going,
tickets.
it's
yeah.
going viral because the slaps, you don't see the ones that go to decisions, right? You see the knockouts, the ones
Yeah.
where they crumple, they fall down, and
Yep.
those are the ones that are going viral. But obviously, this sport is going somewhere the way it's growing so quickly. But in the article, it said it's a 60-second count. If you don't get it up in 6 seconds, you're saying it's 10 seconds.
It's 10. You have 10 seconds to get up, and then they'll do a like an evaluation. Like you have to walk forward, go side to side. Talk to the ref, make sure you're coherent. But that's in a 60-second window. So once you get your 10 seconds, and then the ref says you're fine, you have X amount of seconds up to 60 to get back in position to receive to give a hit.
Almost like at the end of the round, a 60-second
Yep.
break. Like trying to compare it to MMA and that style
Yeah.
of,
So you
of
as soon as you
round
get back
scoring.
up there, and they say competitor ready, and like you're ready, and then they start the clock for the other guy, and then it's
it also made mention of 10 rounds, but I think 5 rounds is the max.
5 rounds of max. Yep.
So
That'd be-
that sounds nightmare. I was
I'm
like,
in
what
though.
the hell are you
I'm
talking
in. Whatever.
about? Yeah.
Whatever we got to do.
Okay. So now that we know what power slap is, how does someone figure out that they're good at power slap?
So that's like that. Dana has been bringing in, people. We've had 3 reality TV shows. I was on the first one, and honestly, they're getting people from MMA and boxing backgrounds and fighting backgrounds, because you have to be a certain level of toughness, and even those guys, like some of those, they can't do it either. I mean, I finally figured out how to tense myself up, well enough to receive the hit. So I've progressed. I won one, and I lost 2 in a row. And I was kind of nervous at that point because in MMA, you don't want to get under 500.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I kept winning and winning and winning. So we're back, and I'm 6-2, I do believe.
6-2. That's a good record.
Yeah.
So what's the strategy to clinching or to taking a slap?
For taking one, honestly, like I'll practice every now and then. My wife doesn't see it, but I'll be standing in the living room or something, and I just work on like my shoulders, my neck, my jaw, like, and trying to stand as still as possible, but yet my core, everything is solid. Like I got hit once, but the opposite side was bruised. I don't know if I pulled a muscle from tensing up so hard. So that, I believe there's people that roll with it, but I tried that twice. It didn't work for me. So I'm full on clinch.
When
now.
you have a fight scheduled,
Mhm.
traditionally you have a training camp, right? So boxing. And
Yep.
things. So what do you do before a fight, or I guess for when a fight is scheduled until the day of?
I work on my footwork, because to me that's the most important part, because if you lift your feet and you pivot, that's a penalty.
Okay.
That's a stepping call. So a lot plays on your feet. So I just work on my foot movement. And on accuracy, I can throw the discus, and I did them Highland Games, so my hand-eye coordination is really well. So I don't focus on that a lot. I
Okay.
focus on just my feet and my placement.
So most of these guys are previous MMA fighters or boxers, but it's different because you got to be willing to stand there and not.
Yeah,
and
the
not block
flinching
it,
part
right?
is the hardest
That's
part.
the hard part.
The flinch part.
And so were you involved in MMA? What's your story? How did you get into this?
I did MMA years ago, local stuff, smaller things. And then I transferred into doing the Highland Games and then went from there, did some powerlifting. And then, I had kids and a family and then just popped up and now I'm here.
But I don't think you could gloss over the Highland Games because I did my homework. Tell us about the Highland Games.
So it's a traditional strongman competition. There's 9 events. The one people see and, they, recognize it with is the caber toss, which looks like a huge telephone pole. And you got to flip it end over end. There's 2 weights for distance. That's on a chain. One is 16 pounds. The other one's 52. I do believe they're 56. And then there's 2 stone throws and they're real stones. And that's like one part of it that's kind of difficult because every competition you go to, they have a local stone. So it may be shaped weird. So you're just kind of out there like playing with it and see how it fits on your face.
So the traditional Highland Games, when I looked it up, it's a Scottish strongman competition.
Yep.
So the guys are in a kilt. They're in kilts, right?
Oh yeah.
Traditionally in
You
kilts.
got to wear a kilt.
Drink beers. And
yeah,
do
we
these
always had good
crazy-
beer sponsors. They always had great beer sponsors. And it was all on the same day. So we did 9 events on the same day. And then, so it was the only sport I've ever done that was a lot of camaraderie. Like you were there to win, but like everyone was still friends.
Are you drug tested before a slap?
Yes, I'm drug tested a lot. I get drug tested every time.
Because I was thinking like you could just take stuff to numb you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, they it's like the UFC. I mean, we have the same staff like transfers over, the boxing commission, the fighting commission. And like I can't drink soda when I'm in there. Once I walk in there, they check your bags, make sure you don't have this, you can only have, clear bottles of water. And so there's I can't be rubbing stuff on my face or anything like
Street club.
Yep.
Do they do the drug testing like out of competition or after a fight's scheduled, then they get you in for that?
They have, but I don't think USADA is part of us anymore.
Right.
So,
They sunsetted USADA with UFC.
yeah. So I just get tested every match, every time, which it makes sense. It saves them money because if you fail your drug test, you don't get paid.
Right.
So
By the way, Gary's like an MMA geek, and so like I've never heard you so engaged in a conversation with someone. Normally you're like, just listen, but this is up your street. Like you might do this if everything doesn't work out. I mean, your hands may not be big enough or heavy enough. But
That's okay.
You'd be surprised.
We can slap after this. We got a video going, so we can figure this out.
You want to slap me?
you'd be surprised. You might be great.
Yeah.
So
Might not be too.
right. Stick to hotel, man. We had Randy Couture here last week, and he's like an OG of UFC. Like, are you at the pioneer and beginning induction of this sport? Like, are there already people that are talking about like Hall of Fame slappers, or is it too early? Like, how big could this thing get? Where do you see this going? I mean, that's a lot of questions in there, but where?
I was at the beginning. I was at the very first event ever held. It was filmed, but it wasn't like broadcasted. It was just Dana wanted to see if they could do this in a production level. So I actually was part of that event, and then I was part of the first televised one. But yeah, I see it growing, and it's like I said, like we're a society that is on TikTok and on this. They want instant gratification, so we're giving them the instant gratification. And when you go to an event, that's how it is too. It's like you go to an MMA. I mean, how many times you go to a UFC event and it's like there's big blocks in between a fight. It's like, oh, this is happening. Oh, we got long rounds, like
Or a board.
or a boring fight.
Well, I don't want to complain, but while you're on it, we were at the UFC at the Sphere, and it was very, very cool to see it at the Sphere.
I think that
But
one doesn't count.
Every single fight went the distance. There wasn't one knockout.
Yeah.
We were in there for 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't complaining because the screen was cool.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see it, but 4.5 hours is a long time. I mean, normally the card's 2 hours. That was just main event.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
That was a pre-card and all
But if you
that.
go to an MMA show, you're hoping to see 5-6 clean shots that lead to a knockout, everything like that. You're getting clean shots with power slap.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else to do. There's no blocking, right? So you know exactly what you're going to get.
You would think that less go to distance, but statistically, a lot of them do go the distance. I'm the only. I'm pretty sure I'm the only competitor there that's I've never had a decision. I've either knocked them out or I got knocked out, and I think that's why I get paid, because I'm there for
It's excitement.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like, oh well, flip the coin up. Someone's getting knocked out tonight.
And have people talked about? Maybe you can't talk about this on a podcast, but like, what are the economics of these events? Like, are they getting massive sponsorships the same way that UFC does?
To my knowledge, I mean, I hear Dana talking about it and everyone talking about, oh, this is great. We got great numbers. I mean, not on my personal Instagram, but on their Instagram and their following. I personally, there's videos of me that have 200 million, 300 million views.
It's almost a social media sport. That's where you're watching is those short action clips.
It was not a sports company; it's a content.
Right.
Yeah.
These numbers, it's shocking to me where this sport can go. So they started about 15 months ago, right? That this sport has been around.
Yep.
Social media platforms, 14 million followers and 6 billion views in 15 months. In all of sports, Power Slap has the most views across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, with four videos having more than 300 million views. One of them being Vern's. There's a YouTube short that has 55 million views of Vern's best knockouts. It's the most incredible thing I've seen. And if we can drop that into this podcast,
But
We could, but copyrights won't have it.
but I mean,
we get sprouts
just
with that.
right there, I'm one person, and you just mentioned I have over 300 million views.
But you don't get, so again, it's like UFC, you don't get any rights to any of this stuff. It's all owned by Slap. You don't get your own sponsors.
No,
You're just
but how much can you make? What is like prize pool?
that's public, isn't it?
yeah. I mean,
If you don't mind sharing.
yeah, I don't mind sharing. If I lose, I get $5,000.
So appearance fee.
I get my
Yep.
appearance fee. If I win, I get 10, and then if I get a fight bonus, I get 10. So
So fight bonus, yeah.
Even going for the belts or even at the top.
the belt. I mean, I'm assuming it may be 7,500 with the 10,000 bonus. So
But as the sport
25.
grows,
it
then
should.
that floor will rise up, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm not complaining about my pay. They pay me good. I come out here, I don't pay for anything when I'm here. So that's good. And I just hope to see it, if they say it's going to be as big as MMA, I want to see it go as big for everyone that's involved,
How many weight divisions are there?
just like UFC.
Okay. And so it's the same barriers of
Yep.
like you have to be within this weight. But
Yeah.
but what about the whole like weight cutting thing? Do they do that?
I do. I massively cut. I'm one of the few people that like cut a lot. I walk around 230, and I'll diet, and as long as I'm within 10 to 15 pounds a day before, I'm good.
and then you cut 10 pounds before the
I
before the
cut
event.
minimum of 10 pounds every time.
Wow.
205.
5.
So I did a cut on the reality show that I was actually mad, and it's kind of weird that you can't see it because it was on show and how they edited it. But I was supposed to have a light heavyweight fight. Well, something happened. Well, then they brought this other guy on the show, and I found out he only weighed 196 or 195. And then I'm like, oh, they have to give me the guy that I'm closest to in weight within 8 pounds. So I went from 216 to 196 in a day and a half just to go against that guy. And I knocked him.
You're an animal.
But I'm a heavy sweater, and that's important because 45 minutes in a sauna for me is 10 pounds.
Okay. Wow.
I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
I guess there's like, it's just so early on, so it's hard to say, but like UFC had so many pieces. If you look at it back now, the ring guys are famous, Joe Rogan's famous,
Mhm.
all the other hosts are famous, the announcers famous, the refs are famous. Like, it's the ecosystem.
Yep.
Like, you guys are probably going to have to build this whole ecosystem. And
Mhm.
do you use the Apex where they do all the UFC stuff for slap events? Or
We have used the Apex for slap events. It started there, and then we went to Durango when they were at Fountain. And it's something that I think, and who knows, but like 15 to 20,000 people, I think would be like a max at the Fountain Blue. It's like a 4,500 venue, I think, which it looks huge when nothing's in there. But I mean, that's a lot of people to just be right there.
have they done the like contender series thing, like a TV show where they start recruiting people? Is
Yep.
that?
Mhm. Yep. I was on the first one.
That's how you got into this because you have a day job.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is a mechanic.
Yeah, I was a mechanic for years. Yep. So
And then you found this TV show, and that's how you got into the.
No, I did it was actually backwards from what you think. I did the very first competition and I won that. And then Dana decided, hey, I want this. And then he called certain people like, hey, we want you on the reality show. And it was so weird because they're like, hey, we need to know now. And I'm like, what do you mean now? And they're like on this phone call. And I was like,
Like to
Sure.
go live at the house. and
Yeah.
be part-
How was it filming a reality show though?
oh,
I
it's
mean,
horrible.
Really?
They're
So,
horrible
how long were
reality
you done
shows.
for?
It takes.
A month.
Okay. So how much of it was, I guess this is the question for every reality show, is like how much of it's reality versus a little bit of production fluff for entertaining television?
I would say it's about 80-20, 80% reality. Because, I mean, you're in a house and if you're out of alcohol, you go over to the phone and you're like, hey, we're out of, such and such. And all of a sudden someone comes in and there's your alcohol. So, yeah, I mean, and then just they mix the people. I mean, they're smart at what they do. I mean, they did
the Ultimate Fighter for 15
I'm,
years.
I'm like super calm and everything. And like, if everyone was like me on the show, it'd be a bunch of crickets chirping and like, oh, okay, well, he got up today and went to work. It's like,
Although, honestly, from what I can see, it's just a bunch of huge Samoan guys.
right now, yeah, there's a
It's-
lot of Samoans. Yeah, they're bringing the Hawaiians in hard. It's going to be,
Like they're all the heavyweights.
yeah. There's a couple Hawaiians that are smaller, but yeah, there's some big heavyweights. Uncle Micah, he lives here in Vegas and he'll be back. I bet he's on the December card.
Yeah, I see heavyweight.
Yeah. They're huge. Their heads are like 5-gallon buckets. It's nuts.
So, where do you think, for you personally, where does this go? How do you see this evolving?
I want to go as long as I can, and then eventually, I'd love to commentate or be involved in some other way.
Right.
Because right now we have Michael Bisping, and we have Dan Helly, which Dan Helly does a bunch of like, NFL, college sports. He's always behind the scenes for Fox, I do believe.
Are you at all worried about any of the health associations of
No.
this? Like
No,
NFL's
I know.
going
As
nuts
soon
on
as I saw
concussions.
I saw, Tua did that the other day. and
Yeah, that was bad.
oh man, everyone's like, oh, Vernon, what do you think? And I was like, well, my biggest part of that is it's your life. If you're not hurting someone else,
do what you want to do.
do what you want to do. I mean, if that was true, we wouldn't have any sports. Everyone would be playing darts and pool. So
We do have a heavyweight boxing champion coming to the festival this weekend as well. So I had to connect you guys. And he's
Oh,
flying
yeah,
from
please.
England. Johnny Fisher.
okay,
He's flying in from England. You guys will get on great.
good.
We won't do a slap off, but we'll connect you guys. That'll be fun.
And that's what's awesome about Power Slap is it's so viral. They get the TikTok people, the Instagram people, and then there's athletes there. I mean, I met Cam Newton last time. I mean, Flex Lewis, he lives here in town. He's a bodybuilder. I ran into him. So the event,
No, the events become like a social gathering.
Oh,
I
it's a-
see it.
yeah, it's a
And
huge-
listen, credit to Dana. He does Dana White does a great job of promoting and
Yes.
creating buzz and celebrities.
oh
and
yeah,
people wanting to be there.
Super Bowl weekend was awesome because I won that match. We were Friday, UFC was Saturday, and Super Bowl Sunday. And I had my only photo bomb ever of Tom Brady walking by me, and I'm like right here.
Oh, man. So speaking of celebrity, have people recognized you on the streets or when you're in town?
Yeah, I
during these
get
events?
recognized.
Because,
It's not as much
6
as
billion views. I mean, people have seen your
it's
face.
not as much as you'd think, but I do get recognized.
Yeah, that's awesome. How many people have asked you to slap them though?
A lot.
Really?
A lot. That happens. As soon as they know who I am, they're like, okay. I'm like, no,
It's not a good idea. This.
it's not a good idea.
Well, why don't you give Vernon the chance? He's got other shit to do. He's here with Shan and his wife. They
Yeah,
wanna
we got Life
relax.
is Beautiful coming
They
up.
want to
and he's
enjoy
gonna
their
get there.
weekend. Let him get out of here. And thank you for educating us on
No,
Slap.
I
But
appreciate
Gary,
everything here.
Gary wants to ask you one final.
Yeah. So, any advice do you have for our listeners out there?
Oh man,
Life
I'm gonna
advice?
I'm keeping it vague here.
man, honestly, just this is gonna sound so cliche. Just be nice, don't be a jerk, and be
It's not.
yeah,
That's
yeah, well, yeah. That's my main thing is like everyone just be nice and get along.
It's good advice.
Awesome.
Simple.
If you want to know more about Vernon, you can you can follow him on Instagram at Vern the Mechanic. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it so much. Thanks.
You a fan of On the Corner of Main Street? You're listening, so we'll assume that's a yes. So share the love, rate, review, and tell a friend to subscribe. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Plaza Pod, on Facebook, Plaza Podcast, and feel free to write to the man himself at Jonathan Jossel. We'll see you next time, right here on the corner of Main Street.